Welcome to your weekly astrological weather. This is your place to get practical guidance for not only surviving, but thriving with the cosmic tides.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to your weekly astrological weather. I am so thrilled to be here with all of you and to be here with Cameron Allen, who is an evolutionary astrologer and also a medical astrologer, also a practicing herbalist. So we're going to get a very rounded perspective on the energy this week and some very practical tools for working with it. And I couldn't be happier to have you here this week, Cameron. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, Amanda, I'm glad to be here as always. Always just excited to tune in and connect with the Astrology Hub community. It's always a joy.
They're special, huh?
Yeah, no doubt.
All right, so before we dive in, I wanted to let you know about a very exciting opportunity we have right now to attend a financial awareness webinar taught by financial astrologer Mitch Scott Lewis. And this is available right now for instant access if you are having questions about what the astrology has to say about things like inflation and gas prices and the housing market, and how we can look back at historical trends to understand where we're at now. You are going to love this webinar. It's amazing. It's a 2-hour webinar that you can do at your own pace. And Mitchell has also agreed to offer a live Q&A exclusive to the Astrology Hub community. So any of you who sign up for the webinar, you're going to get to submit questions for the live Q&A. I know this is a very relevant topic for so many of us right now. I mean, all of us, really. And financial astrology is one area that we haven't explored as much here at Astrology Hub. So I'm really excited to be featuring Mitchell's work. He's been doing this for over 30 years. He worked on the floor of the New York Mercantile Exchange. He's been a market and a financial advisor for years and years. So we're very grateful to have his expertise in this very kind of niche area of astrology. So check that out at astrologyhub.com/finances. That's astrologyhub.com/finances. All right. So Cameron, tell us about this week. If you had to choose a theme, where would you start?
Yeah, so the thing I would start with is the quote that I had this week is determined during disruption. And so being determined during disruption, it kind of goes back all the way to when I last was here for the weekly weather, and I talked about Saturn square the nodes. And so I'm just going to invite everyone to go check that out. There's like a specific area that's talking about Saturn square the nodes in the last episode, episode 64. And so checking that out. But for people who weren't there, it's just talking about like being committed to our codes and being able to learn how is our unique authenticity trying to express itself, and how there's an arc of time from now until like approximately like the middle of October, I'm pretty sure, is like when that square the nodes is going to be happening. And so also highlighting the importance of when you're listening to weekly weather, when people talk about long range transits, like being sure that you really anchor down into those things, really making sure you take notes on those things, because if what we talked about back then, you were working on that up until now, then you would feel more contained and held if you were doing it with like a concerted effort. And so also in that whole episode it was called Time to Commit. And so I'm just like reflecting to everyone, like if it was time to commit then now you would have more resources to like hold yourself. And I think that's really important with the astrology, because we can come into like every week and check in with every week, but sometimes like the longer transits is like what we're really needing to like anchor into. So without further ado, this week, I guess now. So yeah, so
hold on real quick.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you said determined through the disruption, which is really clear. I mean, like, so staying committed, you just brought up these things, like what are we committed to? Mm-hmm. And you brought in also our unique code. Yeah. So being committed to the unique code, which essentially I interpret when you say that to mean like our unique expression, the thing that we came here to do and be and experience as kind of like laid out by our astrological chart, right?
Yeah, totally. By your astrological chart and just like your inner gold, it's like I use the example of if you came to someone in a dream and you weren't in your physical form, would they still be able to know that it's you? Because it's like that's your code, or like that's your unique electrical blueprint that you have. That is you. That is not even the physical, tangible version of you necessarily. So, and so like, are you in commitment to that? Which is like a really deep thing to think about and feel into. It's like it can be a really profound practice to like really reflect on. And so my invitation would be, yeah, reflect on that the rest of your life for sure. But like from now until October, it's like that's highlighted for us. And so really feeling into that.
And Cameron, can you remind us of the timing of when this started? So if people are trying to anchor into a specific time frame, was it like February or January of this year?
I can't remember the exact time, but I know I started with it personally around my birthday, which is February 4th. So like, yeah, that's what I would say. That's when I started tuning into this kind of thing more. Because I mean, sometimes with transits for me, like stuff comes through for my meditations and stuff. So it's not always so clean with the transit exactly when it starts and stuff like that. So,
yeah. Well, and I know a lot of people in this community, they start to feel the transits before they're even here. Once I think when you're sensitized to the energy, you're feeling it more.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay.
No doubt.
All right. So determined through the disruption. Now let's go into more of the week.
Yeah. And before we go into the week, I want to talk a little bit about the determined during disruption from the perspective of if you were already doing something, you determined that you were going to do it. And so you just stay determined through the disruption. Even if it tries to throw you off, you just keep going. But also that can also mean, and on a more microcosmic scale of this week, it's like determine, right? Like choosing something, like choosing right now during this disruption that you will be determined through it, And so like making that choice that's what's going to be happening and anchoring yourself in allowing disruption to teach you as well. It's like, yeah, it might make me go to and fro a bit there, but I've already determined, right? I made that choice that I'm going to be with that experience. And if I can really be with that experience, the next time there's a Mars-Uranus-North Node, I will be able to be more with that experience or more with the next disruptive thing that occurs in my life in general. And so using these times is like something to build us up.
I was speaking to someone who hasn't been through their first Saturn return yet. And I said, and they were somewhat concerned about what that might mean for them when they do get to the Saturn return. I said, well, as far as most of the astrologers, when I ask them this question, they say that if you work with the energy, if you've been working with the energy and then the transit comes, it's usually not as shocking, not as like dramatic. Like you've already been working with the content. So what I'm hearing you say now is that this is very similar, that if I've been working with this since February-ish, and if we work with it now, then the next time this type of transit happens, we will already have that fortification of experience behind us, and we'll be able to experience it very differently next time.
Yeah, definitely. Big time. Yeah. So I think that's really important for people to, feel into this week and feel into for a lifetime. It's like we can get so much gold out of feeling into that. Also, something today that was really highlighted for me is not only that this Uranus, Mars, and North Node conjunction, but even if we look towards the moon and see where the moon is at, it's not just in relationship with moving away from that conjunction, but it's also about to go into an opposition with Neptune. And then after the opposition with Neptune is going into a trine with Pluto. And so we can see here that there's all these large forces that are at play today. And so knowing that when all these large forces are at play, it's best to get with it, because it's like one of my teachers, Michael A. Bryan, he always talks about how these are titanic forces, right? There's no way you're going to like just choose a different thing than if you're trying to ride a 30-foot wave. There's no way you're going to just choose what you want to do within a tornado. There's no way you're going to choose what you want to do if there's a volcano erupting. But what you can do is know that that thing is happening and get with it, right? You can get with it and be choiceful around how you're going to interface with that titanic force. So I think that's really important for us to feel into and think about for the day.
I love that. I love that. Our choice is either to work with it or get with it, like you said, or not, but the force is happening either way.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Get with it or get God.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what else are we looking at? That's the Mars-Uranus conjunction with the North Node today. And then you just got a Moon and Neptune as well. Anything else for today, or do you want to start unpacking the rest of the week?
Yeah, for today, I think it's really important for people so just following the moon, just to keep it really, really simple. Virgo rules kind of like the abdomen portion of the body or the digestive tract as a whole. And it rules a bunch of other stuff, but we'll go there another time together, I'm sure. So I would just invite everybody to put their hands on their stomach throughout the day and just make sure you're taking really deep breaths with it and even having an audible sigh. And just letting whatever is happening occur, it's not necessarily just letting it occur, but being with it, and allowing yourself to be with it. And just, thinking about how can you nourish how you're organizing your day today, right? Because Virgo oftentimes has a lot to do about organization. And so if there's a lot of things going on, what you can focus on in a really practical way is how you're digesting and how you're internalizing the experience of the day. And what better way to put your hands on your digestive tract and really just feel into that. Maybe also be mindful with Virgo. They could the Virgo energy can be really sensitive about how it's internalizing or digesting things. So maybe you might want to eat lighter today, maybe you want to have some soup or something like that. And make sure if you're feeling ungrounded, the soup is something that's easy to digest, but it can be hearty and grounding and something that is of a resource to you. So those things are what I would say overall for today. And also there's been so many astrologers talking about what today is all about. So be mindful of all that wisdom that you've received and apply these principles that I'm talking about today. And then also for the next week or so, be mindful of those things as well.
Because this is such a big transit that it's not today. We've been building up to it, and it's going to be with us for, what would you say, a couple weeks, couple days? How long do you feel the effects of this will last?
Yeah, so I would say everybody be mindful if you have a lot of energy or placements in your own zodiacal chart in around 18 degrees of fixed signs. And that will be the thing that's telling you, hey, this is going to last kind of long. And if you have degrees of those fixed signs, those fixed signs, then you would already be feeling it. It's already happening, and it's going to continue to be happening for a while. And if you don't have a lot of placements there, if you have maybe sextiles and trines and nice aspects to it, maybe it's oh, this is a lot right now, but it's actually helping me move forward in a more graceful, easeful way. So just being mindful of those things always when there's collective things occurring. How it influences you specifically is going to be different.
Cameron, for people that don't know what the fixed signs are off the top of their head, which signs would you say? Yeah,
so you have Taurus, you have Leo, you have Scorpio, you have Aquarius. And so at 18 degrees and then maybe looking at 3 degrees on each side. Okay. And just being mindful of that. And also knowing whatever's happening in the collective right now, you can be mindful whenever Uranus is involved to make sure that it's not you detach from everything necessarily, but just be mindful of what you're digesting as far as technology goes and information from the collective. Because if you really think about it, I don't think humans were necessarily set up this way. We're actually evolving into being able to experience technology in this way. We haven't evolved into, let me find out what's happening in Bangkok right now. The trauma that's popping off in Bangkok, am I really supposed to be digesting this just because I think I'm supposed to be a good person? Those are things we have to be really mindful of in this era that we're moving in through and into.
It's such a good point. I mean, we take it for granted that that we do have access to that type of information all the time at our fingertips. But is our nervous system really designed to be taking that amount of input like every single day?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so important.
Okay. So be careful of like paying attention to digestion, both physically with your food, but also with the kind of information you're ingesting, and trying to keep it light as possible, but hearty and grounding is what I heard.
Yeah. Light and nourishing.
Light and nourishing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So what else for the week, Cameron?
Yeah. So tomorrow, the moon is going to move into Libra. And so when the moon moves into Libra, especially after something as large as the forces that are occurring today, maybe you want to focus on just like, where is my balance? Or like today, did you go to some type of extreme? Because if you did go to an extreme, then you want to kind of center yourself back to where you desire to be. That's really important. Like remembering that Libra isn't necessarily about balance, but sometimes it's about extremes that assist us in finding balance. And the moon's going to be opposing Jupiter tomorrow, and it's also going to get close to opposing Chiron in Aries. And so just feeling into those things as well. How can you balance yourself in a way that allows you to keep expanding towards what you were putting your effort towards from before? And then also knowing that if you get really raw and sensitive today, then that's going to be highlighted tomorrow, that you're trying to balance yourself, but you're still feeling kind of energetically sensitive with that Chiron being opposed the moon, right? Which can create like a very dynamic tension. So being mindful of those things on the 2nd can be really helpful. On the 3rd, I didn't really see that much going on, but more about the moon being in Libra as well. So that will still apply. But one thing I did notice from a medical astrology perspective was that the moon will end up being in conjunct these same placements that we're talking about today. And so sometimes when there's an in conjunction, there's like a blind spot. It's like something you don't see. So whatever is happening right now, being very mindful in 2 days, how was today influencing you on the 3rd? What happened today that's influencing you on the 3rd? Be very mindful of that, especially if it has something to do with feeling grounded or lack thereof of grounding. And that's what I would say in general. Also for that day, I have in my own notebook to do like a practice where I just imagine a specific color coming out of my hands and then putting it on my kidneys and just rubbing my kidneys. And that's because the moon is in Libra, and Libra rules the kidneys. And so just an easy, simple practice of just like giving nourishment and love to the kidney region overall can be really helpful on that day. On the 4th, we have, on the 4th, there was something that I was going to invite everyone into as a practice. Mercury is going to be rising. Mercury is going to be Mercury rising with the moon in Scorpio. And so Mercury is going to be going into Virgo. And so when Scorpio's rising, that means that Mercury is going to be finally in a good place, right? It's going to be in a place that it likes to be. And so when Scorpio is rising, just inviting people to find what time that is wherever you're located, and just do a mini meditation to kind of welcome in Mercury into Virgo. And also, so on that day, that means Mercury is going to be ingressing into Virgo, and being mindful again, like we were talking about today, with the stomach and what's going on with the stomach. Not necessarily the stomach, the digestive tract as a whole, and how we're internalizing things. Like we might feel the nerves in that area of our body be a little more active. So being more particular about what you're eating during Mercury in Virgo is something that's starting this week, but it's going to be happening during the transit as a whole, which will go further into this month.
So Cameron, can you explain that a little bit more? You said Mercury's going to be rising with the moon.
Mercury. I meant to say Mercury rising with the moon in Scorpio is what I really meant to say. Yeah,
you said that. Yeah, you said that.
Okay.
Mercury rising with the moon in Scorpio, and then how do we find out what time that is where we are?
If you have Astro Gold, or if you have, I only use Astro Gold, so I'm not really helpful right now in this.
Okay, all right.
But you could go on. I see. you could go on astroseek.com and then look at the transit for the 4th, and then just click until you see Mercury on the ascendant.
Okay.
That's what you would do. Yeah.
That's helpful. And then at that time, we do a mini meditation welcoming Mercury into Virgo.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Mercury would greatly appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I love
moon,
you guys bring in this embodied, like actually communing with the planets.
Yeah, totally. And since the moon's going to be in Scorpio, it means it's going to probably be in like the region of what we're calling the 3rd house or the 3rd place. And that's where the moon has its joy. And so what I'm going to particularly be doing is like, I'm going to like dancing and like also giving like reverence to the goddess, because, you know, the moon in its joy in the 3rd house is, where the goddess is.
Okay.
Scorpio. Okay. So I see it should be around midday. Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Great.
And
okay.
I'll say also on that day, it's like I'm thinking about like, what is the crisis cleanup? You know, cleaning up any crises that like happen from the last few days. Also, something that happens there is like a more subtle thing going on. But we have the moon, and it's going to hit a trine with Vesta, and it's going to be conjunct the asteroid Aeia. And most of the time people call this asteroid Hygeia, but it's really pronounced Aeia. And so she's been wanting me to like bring that forth into the world. It's you say Aeia. And so with the moon being in trine to Vesta and then conjunct Aeia, it's like asking for a moment of being in devotion to being energetically clean or cleaning things up energetically. And so this could look very simple or more elaborate. And so for me, my invitation would be to just light something that like feels like it's cleansing the air, and then re-evaluating what you're devoted to in that present moment, or what you're devoted to for this week. Or you can even like, I think of like, if you like put essential oils in a diffuser and just like run that through your like space, you know, whether that's like your psyche and your consciousness through like smelling it and like inviting that in for like energetic cleansing. But that's something that's going to be happening on the 4th as well. So I highlighted that because, yeah, those could be really powerful things when the moon is in relationship with these asteroid goddesses. And on August the 5th, we have Venus in Cancer in conjunct Saturn retrograde in Aquarius. And so from a medical astrology perspective, that's really big. If you specifically have some type of issue going on, like with your veins, or if you tend to have issues with like circulation, that could be something that you really want to like focus on and highlight. And also it's going to, from a more like emotional, psychological perspective, it would be like, because whenever I'm thinking about the veins, I'm thinking about what am I giving with my heart, and how is it, or is it not circulating back to me from the community, from the people that I'm actually helping in my life. And so if you have something going on with your veins, that's something you want to look out for, and maybe give yourself a nice oil massage on your lower extremities would be nice there.
Cameron, when you say if you have issues with circulation, that's something to focus on and highlight. So you just gave us a practice of actually like rubbing oil and helping it circulate. Any other things we can do to focus on and highlight it if it is something that we feel is an issue for us?
Yeah, a lot, like something I like to do to keep it really simple for now is like just like hold my hands up in the air for like 30 seconds and just reach, and then drop them down and let my blood just start to circulate. And then also like stand on my tippy toes, press, drop down. And just like allowing that to like let the circulation just move, you know. People talking about Cameron, okay, cool. So it's like people talk about the cardiovascular system, and a lot of times when people talk about working that system out, we call it cardio, but we forget the vascular part of it. And so there's ways that we can move the vasculature in our body without having to do this like very stressful running and stuff like that. I'll teach this more another time for Astrology Hub, but yeah, so just be mindful that you can work the venous system through just getting the blood pumping, or putting your arms up, putting your arms down, standing on tippy toes, dropping back down to your heels, and just like letting that reverberate through your body so that it can stay in motion. Yeah. And
Cameron,
also that.
Thank you for bringing some of these more simple practices. I agree with you. I think sometimes we make it a lot more complicated than it necessarily needs to be. And we also make it harder than it necessarily needs to be. I mean, I know I've been doing something for Gary, my love. At the end of the day, he's on his feet working with clients all day. And we have that long stick thing. You know what I'm saying? That stick that you roll out.
Oh, yeah, totally. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's amazing how much that just gets the circulation going and gets like the blood flowing again. And instead of it all, being stagnant in the body. So it's very simple. I mean, it's like literally a plastic stick thing with rollies on it, but just putting it on the body and rolling out the legs and getting the blood flowing, it does wonders. So, I agree. I think sometimes we think we have to do like this huge strenuous workout in order to see any sort of health benefits. And it's not always true.
Yeah, it's actually usually very untrue for like longevity purposes. Like things that we do for longevity should always be like the most simple, easeful things for the most part.
Wow.
Yeah, especially if you have like deeper understanding of what's going on. It's like it really actually is like the most simple things that just keeps things moving. And when we keep things moving, we can be less stressed. And when we're less stressed, we can keep our movement throughout the rest of our life rather than getting stagnant or putting in all this strenuous effort. And that's the thing too, like when it comes to like even being determined, I'm like, think about that, it's like when people like clench their whole body and they think that's being determined, and it's like, it's really not, and it actually creates more issues with when disruptions come up, because if I'm really tense and something like hits me, it's like much easier that I can fall over. But if I'm like moving through it and I'm determined, but like I'm just like holding the space that I'm in, right? Then when something comes and hits me, I just fall down a little bit, but I can bounce back in life overall. So, yeah.
Cameron, I love hearing this, especially from you, because I know that you're a former college football player. You are in excellent physical shape. So to hear you encouraging us to do the lighter things in order to achieve our health goals and that circulation and for longevity is really reassuring, because I know you were an elite athlete, and in many ways you still are, but I'm sure you have a very different approach to how you do it.
Oh yeah, way different approach. Yeah. I was not approaching things like this back then for sure. So yeah.
Right. Okay. All right. So let's keep going through the week.
Yeah. Okay. Well, also on the 5th, the moon is going to be conjunct the South Node. So you have to be mindful of that, because that's still going to be opposing that Uranus and that Mars. And then it's also going to be squaring Saturn. So on that day, I already have it written down in like my personal notebook that I'm going to really eat light that day. And I'm really going to be mindful to like reflect on my past and just reflect on this week and already think about like, well, what has been empowering or disempowering for me. And also since it's going to be the South Node is with Scorpio, then I always think about the pelvic floor during that time. So even right now, just inviting everybody to just take a moment and close their eyes and like really just take a long breath. Focus on the breath being long rather than just deep, and just like breathing and seeing if you can feel your pelvic floor relax. Mm-hmm. Maybe even using your hands and pressing into your lower abdomen or feeling into your thighs to create more space. And and just throughout that day, I'm just inviting everybody to think about this moment and come back to that practice. And if you feel a lot of tension in your pelvic floor, then just like stick with that practice in general. Overall, really, it would be like a really helpful thing to do, and really simple. And you can pretty quickly there acknowledge if you feel your pelvic floor being tight, and the moon going by it on that day will give you more awareness around it, because the energy will be more highlighted there. It'll be flowing through there, or it will not be flowing through there. So it'll give it more emphasis on the 5th. That feels good. Okay. Yeah, so on the 6th, we have a grand fire trine between Jupiter retrograde in Aries, Ceres and Black Moon Lilith in Leo, and then the moon in Sagittarius. And so the way I was feeling into this was just like allowing the mood of like your personal truth and like giving internal space for reflection for it, right? And allowing this to be cultivated within you so that you can put forth the energy to actualize yourself, even if you feel like things are kind of you're a little unhinged or you're a little untamed about it. That's okay. Just continue to cultivate, even if you're feeling like you're not the most stable on that day. Like, so just like being with it, again, being with it, and there might be disruptions, but allowing yourself to still cultivate what you're looking for, and just like knowing that that's okay. And then it being a fire trine, also you might feel extra inspiration around it as well. So that's what I have for that day. But the 6 really isn't too highlighted for me this week. It didn't feel like it like brought too much aliveness to it. So I'm saying all those things as invitations and suggestions, but I'm also saying it lightly. On the 7th, we have Mars in Taurus squaring Saturn in Aquarius. So this is going to be more of a continuation of what we're feeling right now. It'll just be more exact. Also, what's been going on over the last few years when Saturn has been with Mars, like things with COVID have just like seemed to like escalate or get big or seem like they're more in the news or just like influencing people more strongly. So just be mindful of that. And if you have any vitamins that you're taking, just making sure you're staying on that and make sure you're like on your regimen and like stay strong in that and stay determined in that and stay committed in that practice as well. Also, for the last few years, every single time that there's been Saturn and Mars in opposition, in conjunction, and in square, I personally have been myself, and then also some people that I work with, I've been having them just do contrasts of hot and cold showers, because Saturn is like the extreme cold and then Mars is the extreme heat. And whenever those things come together in friction points, it's like a strong stop and then go fast and stop and then go fast. And it's like it keeps doing that. And so learning adaptability through doing that, like feeling that sensation in our body, going to the cold and then stop and then going to the warm to hot and then stop and then going to the cold. And then also be mindful, like everybody's range is different. So don't like freak your body out too much, but just like feel into those things while you're breathing deeply. That's always like really, really helpful during these types of transits for me. From like a medical astrology perspective, I found those are like really important. Also on that day, and then also like 2 days, 1 or 2 days before and after it, also being mindful of like what your real no is. Because sometimes when it comes to like malefics, people try to demonize or make the malefics seem like they're bad, but it's like we all need to know how to say no. We all need to know how to cut things off. We all need to know how to create boundaries. And so really just emphasizing saying no and like what is your no? So yeah, that's what I would say for the 7th overall. And that would be my general synopsis of the week. I would definitely keep everything as simple as possible, though, to be honest. When there's a lot of stuff going on, that's when I actually tend to do less. So a lot of these things I'm talking about, they're relevant. And also it's like Uranus, Mars, North Node, square to Saturn. If you can just focus in on that, like you'll be good for the week, even if there's like a lot of disruption.
Yeah, so that's what I'm hearing. In general, it's a simple diet, it's simple exercises, it's simple what you're ingesting, like just keeping it simple. I love that as a guiding force for the week. I'm sorry for any disruption. I still have 3 puppies left, and I attempted to do this at the place where the puppies are today. So if you've heard any like background noise or anything like that, it's the 3 puppies that are waiting for their new home. And they've been on a journey with me through this whole puppy thing. We started with them. So yes. Okay. So that brings us through Sunday, right? Yeah. All right. So let's do a little bit of a recap. Basically we have the overarching theme of determined through the disruption. And there's this overarching bigger transit, outer transit, that we have been working with since about February, that we will be working with through October.
Mm-hmm.
And this is reminding us to stay committed to our code through all of it. So your code being that thing that is unique to you, that essence, that intangible in many ways, thing that people can sense about you, that you can sense about you. So staying committed to that part of you through all the different types of turbulence that we've been experiencing this year, that we will continue to experience through October. Okay, so choosing right now that you will be determined through it all. So just choosing, no matter what happens, I'm going to stay committed to that commitment that I've already made. I'm going to stay with it.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you keep saying, stay with it, get with it, be with it. Just moving with these energies as they move throughout our lives.
Mm-hmm.
Allowing the energies to teach you. I love this too. Like, allow it to teach you. You reminded us to focus on our abdomen and our breathing. And you said that these are titanic forces. And again, it's like, okay, being with these titanic forces. You said to have an audible sigh, breathe deep into our abdomen. And then you gave an audible sigh, and just like really focusing on that breathing. You said to also focus on how we're organizing our day, that this is about eating lighter, but also focusing on it actually being very nutritious.
Mm-hmm.
You said that 18 degrees of the fixed signs, Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, within 3 degrees on either side, are going to be the ones most highlighted by this specific transit, the Mars-Uranus at the North Node. You also reminded us to focus on what we're digesting in general. So this could be conversations, this could be media, this could be, just the environment that you're in. You said that on the 2nd, it's going to be about finding balance from whatever's happening today. So there's, finding that balance point. And how can you balance your point in a way that helps you stay expansive
Mm-hmm.
towards your commitments, and that we also may feel energetically sensitive.
Yeah.
On the 3rd, you said that what's happening today will sort of be highlighted again. So it's important for you to reflect on whatever these themes are that are coming up for you. And you talked about the kidneys being especially highlighted, and you gave us a practice of imagining colors coming out of our hands and then placing those colors on our kidney, because Libra rules the kidneys. Yeah. On the 4th, we have this Mercury rising with the moon in Scorpio. This is the day to do a mini meditation. You said to also focus on the goddess or the divine feminine, and you helped us all pronounce the asteroid Ea. Am I doing it right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because most of us say Hygeia, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So just focusing on, you said dancing, reverence to the goddess, again, being mindful of our digestive tract, and also cleaning up whatever crisis that might be happening. So focusing on that, sort of those cleanup activities. You also said devotion, light something that's cleansing for the air, or use a diffuser to put oils into the air, and to focus on the question, what are you devoted to this week? So what are you devoted to this week? And then on the 5th, again, focusing on circulation. And I like this question, are the things that you're giving from your heart coming back to you? And where that's not happening, to focus on how you can actually create more circulation in that area of your life. So that's sort of like the metaphysical circulation. But then the physical circulation, you gave us some great exercises that we can do for that as well. And then, again, we're eating light. So I guess eat light this week is pretty much what I'm hearing over and over. And you talked about taking long breaths on this day. So instead of, the breathing is a little bit different. You said not just deep, but also long breaths.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And on the 6th, this is, you said it's not a huge day astrologically, but this is a great day to focus on your internal truth and to continue being with it. And that there could be also extra inspiration this week. I mean, on that day, that you could be receiving because of the grand square trine. Yeah? Okay. And then on the 7th, focus on your vitamins. Make sure you're actually taking whatever vitamins and supplements, and probably you would say that's true all week. But on the 7th, maybe it's a time to recommit to that. The contrasting cold and hot showers and feeling the sensations in our body. Be mindful of your no. So what is your no? What are the places where you need to express those boundaries or even recommit to your own boundaries? And this is Mars and Taurus and square Saturn and Aquarius, right? Is there anything that I didn't highlight that you would want to emphasize?
Yeah, something that I was like pretty much waiting to say after all of those things, because it's like those are things that we can like apply to ourselves specifically, but more on a collective level, just being mindful with Taurus and Scorpio axis and how it oftentimes can bring a sense of scarcity, just like even like with like food shortages and things like that. And if you happen to be a type of person who experiences fear around that, like really starting to like make a plan. You know, sometimes people are like, oh my gosh, these food shortages, what is happening? It's like, well, if somebody told you that 3 months ago, 5 months ago, 6 months ago, it's like, well, you should most likely feel less scarcity around that because you have been preparing for what is to come. And so that's really important for us to think about and feel into because, yeah, there have been food shortages in different places around the planet. And that's just kind of what happens when the nodes go into Taurus and Scorpio. And also being mindful of if you're responding to things as if your survival needs are being threatened, even when they're not. And so that can even be like when you're in relationship to people, if you're not rooted enough in your body, when something happens that creates like crisis between two people, you know, you can feel like, oh my gosh, like this thing that happened to me when I was a child is coming back up again. And now I'm out of my body. And now I'm, you know, so just being mindful of those things as well with Uranus, North Node, and Mars all being in Taurus. Because in evolutionary astrology, Taurus represents our survival needs, and it takes us back to like the root of things, you know. And if you're not rooted in your body, then you'll be rooted in potentially your subtle mental trauma, or you'll be rooted in how you have a tendency to fragment yourself from your authentic expression because you want somebody to come and take care of your needs. So I'm not going to fully be myself so that you can come take care of me, right? And knowing that we don't have to do that. And also acknowledging when you do that, yeah, you did it. Okay. Don't even put your hands all over that either. Just being mindful of those things so that you can like move forward in a way that feels like you can incarnate more. And you're not getting like all frazzled all the time when you have these experiences. So those things are just things in the collective that we should be tuning into overall for sure, because people and their values and like how that makes people get freaked out these days is like it's really strong, you know. So inviting people to be determined to not be disrupted even by other people's values and what they think is true in their body, because what's true in my body is not the same as what's true in your body.
Okay, so I heard two things there. One, that the food shortages and that scarcity sort of experience is something that is somewhat typical of a Taurus Scorpio nodal axis being highlighted. I have a question around that. I just want to like pin the question. And then that so to have a plan and be prepared, because it is potentially part of the reality of what's happening for all of us collectively. However, be mindful of where you are responding in a way that is unhinged from the current reality. So it's more rooted in something from the past or some other trauma, but it's not actually rooted in what is now and what is here and what is true for you in this moment. So being aware of those two potential tendencies. And so my question is, if scarcity and food shortages and things are part of like a Taurus Scorpio axis, what is the invitation? What do you feel is the reason why we're experiencing these things collectively? And what is it sort of asking us to graduate or evolve into?
Yeah. Thank you for this question. This is a great question. The first thing I would say is for me and people that are listening here, and just when people that are into understanding the cycles, I think that it's important because whenever the cycle comes around next time, like people are like, this is the cycle and it keeps happening. It's like, okay, cool. How many astrologers have been like giving a checklist of like, hey, this is coming. These are things that might be helpful to know so that we won't feel scarcity and we can continue to be the people who have mindfulness and awareness and root the reality in stronger as humans, period. That would be like one of the biggest things because I've been doing that myself. Like I don't have the answers right now. These are for me, like in my age, like some of these are the first cycles that I've been aware through. So next time this cycle comes around, I'm going to have like a whole like list for people of things to be mindful of. Like, do you know how to make like a little thing outside? Or like, it's like, do you know where the closest fresh water is? Simple things like this. If we can just invite people into solutions, then the energy of anxiety and worry can be put forth towards things that are more effective and helpful for yourself, and you'll feel stable in that. And then you can each one teach one, is what we used to say all the time. So the people who aren't into astrology, who don't know the cycles, we don't have to be like, oh, well, I told you that blah, blah, blah was coming. It's like, just like, here's the practical tools that you can use to be prepared for what's coming up next. So that would be my answer. That would be my answer overall. Yeah.
Okay. So for those of you who are interested in more of Cameron's work and more of like the medical astrology approach, where you're using these transits to then translate into the body and experience greater health, we actually have a really fun free quiz that you can do. And it's a very simple quiz, but it's basically helps to find your ruling planet and then gives you a free planetary wellness guide based on your ruling planet. So that is available at astrologyhub.com/stay healthy. And this is the planetary wellness guide is based on Cameron's work. And then you'll be given the opportunity to participate in several of the classes that he's done with us. He's done Health Secrets of the Zodiac and Health Secrets of the Planets. And both of those are available in our academy. You can go to astrologyhub.com/planets to learn more about that. But essentially, you can start with the free quiz. If you want to just start applying some of this medical astrology approach to the way that you take care of your body. And I love, Cameron, hearing about the way that you like plan out your week. I mean, you actually look at the transits and then you plan out your practices. And that to me is such an embodied, healthy, beautiful way to work with these energies in a way that's so tangible. So I love that you do this and you come here and you model this for us, and that we have opportunities to learn how to do it ourselves. Again, that's astrologyhub.com/stay healthy. It's totally free. You'll get the planetary wellness guide that will help to guide you on simple practices that you can start doing based on your ruling planet to connect with that planet even more clearly, and then also use those practices to experience greater health. So, and I think that health is, in addition to financial reality, I would say that our health is really highlighted as well. I mean, it has been for the last few years. And so people having those empowering practices they can use, feel more connected to the body. And ultimately, Cameron, would you say that being more connected to the body and then being able to receive guidance in the moment about what's right for your body is somewhat of the ultimate goal there with our health?
Yeah, I would say it's the ultimate goal, and also it allows us to incarnate more fully, to be actually present. And when I can actually be present, then I can be more clear in how I want my finances to change. I could be more clear in what transits are coming and how that might be positive and or negative, but I'm still in my body right now, and I don't have my energy like scattered out into 3 months from now of what potentially might happen. And being able to do that is like something that's been, it's been lost on us. And I remember back in 2020 when I had my Astrology Hub debut, and I was telling people, it was like, something. It was like the question was like, what are we not looking for, or right, or like, it was something about that. Like it was, but what I was saying was we can't look towards safety in general, like outside of ourselves, and that was all the way back in 2020, and that still hasn't changed to this day, you know. And so being able to come back to your body and then move forward. Even when I say moving forward, I'm like feeling the North Node in Taurus and like identifying more with like Earth in the body. That is what can bring us a more strong sense of safety and comfortability. Because when you have a relationship with the Earth, if something happens, you know, then it's like, well, I'm in communion and I'm rooted right here where I'm at already. My safety isn't in these ideas or what might happen out in the future scattered out. And so coming back to center can help us do all those things and be more present. So, yeah.
I love what Sean says. Thank you. Just now learning to actually be, quote unquote, present in my body, hoping to be present and listen with my whole body and not moving on to what I will say, which is interesting because then you actually really can. And Sean, thank you for that comment. You actually can be more present with what you communicate when you take that moment to be in your body and feel what you're feeling versus just, you know, kind of spout the first thing that comes through, which is normally our reaction. And it's normally habitual. It's normally the thing that we always do. So taking that moment, Sean, I think it's brilliant that you're practicing that and learning what it feels like, because it's one of those things that I remember hearing people talk about. And it's like, what? Be present in your body? Like, what does that even mean? But once you start doing it, it's like, oh, okay, that's present in my body. And oh, wait, that's not present in my body. And I can actually feel the difference between those two things.
Yeah. And the presence in the body is like, there's also this thing that is like, I can feel right now when I talk about presence in the body, and it sounds good and it feels good to like hear me say it, especially because, well, my own projection is that I feel good in my body. So it feels good to like hear it. But also something that comes with that, the South Node being in Scorpio, it's like when you're in your body, like those things from the past will also come up. And so that also is like inviting deep vulnerability, you know, and like being able to feel where you feel vulnerable at, because if you're feeling into your body, it's like your stomach might be like, no, or like, you know, like you might feel it in your shoulder. It's just like, oh, I'm carrying too much, or, you know, so just, I don't want to just romanticize it, even though like I'm super romantic with it right now, especially, but it's not all just romanticized. So I just want everybody to be mindful of that too. And when those things come up, knowing that if you can work through those things, they will be those painful experiences will be the things that are also bringing you pleasure. And so that also can give you the opportunity to determine that this present moment pain is going to turn into future pleasure. And so that disruption that you're experiencing will not create a sense of wavering, but can potentially create a sense of deepening and more witness in it. And so, yeah, making sure that you stay determined during the disruption in that way too.
So good. Cameron, that reminds me of that, how you can feel the spectrum of what you feel is dependent on what you allow kind of on either edge. So if you're staying in a narrow band of feeling or sensation, and every time something uncomfortable comes up, you distract yourself from it or you get in your head about it, you're also limiting the other end of joy or pleasure, like you just brought up. Totally. And so allowing yourself to feel that more deeply. I know I always feel like my throat will start to clench up. It's like, you know, I feel like I can't talk, you know, but being aware of this, like, wow, I really feel this right here. Or I'll feel it in my heart. It's like, oh God, that hurts, you know, but being able to feel that, like you said, it opens up the equal opposite of positive sensations that you allow yourself to feel. I know I used to live in a very narrow band of feeling, and mainly I was basically numb, you know. And so with greater levels of feeling comes more opportunity to feel alive and to feel what it is to be human and to be open to that, you know.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Cameron, thank you so much for being here with us today. It is always such a pleasure to be here with you, to get your very unique and beautiful perspective and to share that with our community. So thank you so much for being here for the weekly weather. If you're interested in that planetary wellness guide, make sure you go to astrologyhub.com/stay healthy. And then if you're interested in the financial discussion and what astrology has to say, especially a historical astrological perspective, what that has to say about where we're at now and where we're going, then make sure you check out the financial astrology webinar that is available at astrologyhub.com/finances. Okay, everybody, have a beautiful, beautiful week. Thank you so much for joining us here today. Thank you for being a part of our community. And thank you, as always, for making astrology a part of your life. We will catch you on the next episode. Take care, everybody.